It took a lot of work and a lot of guessing and a lot of really pissed off people, but we are finally here. Mulan has landed on Disney Plus, and interestingly, it is not billed as a Disney Plus original. Because the story itself is so different, it warrants a spoiler warning, so here we go. 3, 2, 1. I wanted so desperately to love this movie, but I just didn't. Now, I'm not saying it was a bad movie whatsoever. There are a lot of great things about it, so let me start off with that before I ruin it. For starters, the fact that it was a different story than the one we grew up with should signal a new direction for these live-action remakes that Disney seems to love. Ever since I read that there was going to be no Mushu or songs and no Shang, that instantly made me really excited. I didn't want a beat-for-beat movie, I wanted something different with the story of Mulan because I've already got the Disney-fied version of it. And in that aspect, it delivered. It reminded me a lot of the new Jungle Book by Jon Favreau in that it used the source material in a more meaningful and wise way. It was also very technically excellent. They wanted to do something more realistic, and you could tell with the high frame rate cinematography. It really added a sense that you were there in the action. I know they probably did that to then scale it down for slow-mo in post-production, but it had the added effect of realism to a legend. Caro's direction was amazing. There were sweeping shots of landscapes and some really powerful moments which added a sense of magical realism to the grounded story. The artistic choices with the limited dialogue really made you focus on the action. To get a bit deeper, I agree with Chris Stuckman. They could have made the film entirely in Chinese and just had subtitles. Now, they want to know that in 2020, Parasite would win Best Picture, but they could have taken that risk if they were going to go so far from the original. Yifei is good, she brings a sort of innocence and awkwardness to the role, and she doesn't feel as fully formed as the animated Mulan, and that may seem like a bad thing, but it's not. In the animated version, Mulan is really mature and takes this decision to join the army as a grown woman in a man's world, whereas Yifei really focuses in on the fact that Mulan is a young girl who is taking this decision. She's still trying to figure out her path in life as a girl becoming a woman, as much as she is trying to defend her family's honour as a man. In essence, Mulan isn't fully formed, rather than the characterization of Mulan. This is a movie that definitely manages to stand on its own as a passable one. However, the thing that let me down a fair bit is probably the lack of character development. This movie relies on you having seen the animated one to understand the relationships between Mulan and her fellow troops. The lack of dialogue only works because there's an established character in mind. If I were to remove my memory of the animated movie from my mind, this adaptation would seem very inconsequential because the characters just sort of do things with very little cause and effect. They try and flesh out the villain, Bori Khan, by giving him some backstory, but they supplement that by cutting away to a scene of his army killing people multiple times. At nearly 2 hours long, this time could have been used a little bit better. They also give the witch a good arc, but they don't really show a lot of hints as to her eventual conclusion, an issue which could have been remedied by a 1 or 2 second moment. The movie tries its best to hit the same beats as the original one, and while it does do that with some nice callbacks to the animated movie,
red lips. I don't care what she looks like. I agree. I care what she cooks like.
the most egregious example of this failing is the scene where the troops witness the destruction of a village. This was such a shocking moment in the animated one that they needed to either top it or just eliminate it altogether, not give us a half-assed version of it. To sum up, I like this movie as an action one with characters I'm somewhat attached to. It was great to see Disney go in a different direction with this than its previous live actions, but I just wish they committed down that path. In order to do that, they needed to flesh out the characters a bit more and not rely on us having seen the animated one. They needed to give the villain a compelling backstory and not just show us how violent he is. I really wanted to love this movie, but I just didn't, and that's probably why I'm giving it a 3.5 out of 5. That's been it for this one. I'm working on a video on HBO Max, which should be out in the next few days. If you like this one, be sure to give it a thumbs up. A sub would really mean a lot as well. Come and chat with me on Twitter at BufferOnYT about what you thought of Mulan and whether you're considering getting it. Everyone stay safe, and I will see you for the next one.